I absolutely do believe that people can change. I've seen it in my life. I've seen it in myself. You know, like the relationships that I used to attract, the relationship I'm in now, all of the careers that I used to be in, you know, retail, working in hospitality, and like now actually having my own business and writing, and that was always a passion of mine. I know that these things can change when we're changing the way that we see them and changing the way that our brain essentially works.
Hello and welcome back to Okis's podcast. My name's Matt.
You should have been an auctioneer. Hi, everyone. I'm Scout. I'm Scout. I'm Maddie's older sister. Fuck.
Wow, that was a Freudian slip.
I want some sushi.
Is that what I would very
That is
much,
not a Freudian slip.
I would very much like a sushi.
Okay.
A piece. A little sash.
What? No one has ever called it that in their entire life.
No, I was abbreviating sashimi. Did you get it?
It didn't work.
Okay. Welcome to the pod.
Welcome to the pod, Mads. I'm so grateful to be in your presence.
Wow. I'm also wearing all black, so I feel very like a kinship towards you right now. I feel like I am you. So you are me.
Yeah. Usually when Mads and I step into the recording studio, I'm wearing all black. She's wearing beige, cream, ivory, maybe a taupe.
Hey, wait. I have a question for you.
Okay. Do I like a taupe? I do.
What do we think? Oh, taupe is a good one. What do we think of a butter yellow accent color for the wedding?
I was going to say for a nursery.
I've never seen your face.
This is not a tea party in the South, is what I'm gonna say. This is not a tea party in the South.
Okay.
And this is not a nursery.
What do we think about sage green?
Better, but basic.
What do we say about moss green?
No, it's more like winter, fall vibes.
Okay. What is taupe? That's like
taupe
a gray.
is the color of the everyday sweater that we wear from Jenny Kane.
I think that's the accent color.
That is a wonderful accent color.
That's kind of fall vibes though too.
I am not a fan of colors.
Well, same.
So I don't know why you need one.
I know. I'm just trying to I just want it to feel a little unique.
It's unique.
It's unique.
The venue is unique.
That's true.
You don't need a butter yellow with your doily.
My who?
Yeah, it feels like you're going to have butter yellow doilies. That's
What's
what I think.
a doily?
A doily is that like white lace, like circle coasters that.
What?
Oh my God. Let me
I
look
don't
up
know
a
anything.
photo.
A doily?
How do you not know what a doily is?
It's a coaster?
It's like a grandma coaster.
Oh.
Here's a doily.
Let me see. Why would I be having that in the first place?
Because that's what the butter yellow is giving me. It's giving me doily vibes.
It's giving you doily vibes.
It's giving me doily.
And we don't want doily vibes at the wedding. That's not really what we're going for.
Not at all. My goodness.
You sent me a dress that you might get for the wedding.
Yeah, I think it's a little casual, so I might get it for the rehearsal dinner.
Very casual. And I was going to say something, but then I didn't. Should I just say it on the pod?
Yeah, because I was actually wondering why you never respond to me.
I was going to say like, that won't upstage me.
I was being nice.
Yeah, but I thought that was your whole point, is you're trying to upstage me at my wedding.
I just thought maybe I should calm down and be nice.
That would be nice. That's why I didn't say anything.
You didn't say
I was
anything,
like,
so
maybe she's like reversed her.
Nope.
So this was a ploy.
This was a ploy.
Yeah, it was pretty casual. I like it. I'm just saying.
Maybe I went for the Shabbat dinner.
Sure.
Because then I can just be chill. I'm so excited to wear a gown.
I am so ready. We have the wedding dress appointment.
Thank God. Jesus fucking Christ.
Motherfucking lock.
Literally, she texts me every day. How about this date? Yeah, I can do that. How about this date? Yeah, I can do that too. Well, how about this date? I can also do that. How about it's like been, oh my goodness.
So many people just have like all these fucking things going on, and it's kind of rude. Like,
I don't have anything going on.
You couldn't do all of July because we're going to Tulum.
Okay, but we're going to Tulum.
I understand. But
sisters, Mady has now.
Oh, have we not?
I don't think we said it. Mady and Ben are joining Adam and myself in Tulum.
We're crashing the Tulum. And 3 years later, which is, it's so crazy. I was looking back on our episodes. We recapped our last Tulum trip with hot intern Gigi.
Oh, we got to bring her back.
We got to bring her back for this recap.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago, we went on a Tulum trip with the spouses, well, soon to be spouse on my end, me, Ben, Adam, and Scout. And it was for Scout's 30th birthday. And I was 3 years later, and it's my 30th birthday at the same time that they're going on this Tulum trip. So I was just like, it's too serendipitous. Also, they're bringing Lily. I mean, 100% I would not have come if Lily's not coming, just letting you know. But Lily's coming. And so we were like, you know what? This is the year of memories, okay? Also, it's going to be every year is the year of memories for me. I am so into spending money on experiences and memories. And yes, we could hang out with Lily in San Diego, whatever. But like to see Lily in Tulum and to hang out with her in Tulum would just be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity at her at this stage.
Yeah.
And me being 30, us coming
her
back 30
running
years later.
into the pool, running into the ocean, running around all the sand.
It's going to be
she's
heaven
not,
on
she's not going to wear
earth.
shoes. She's just going to run around the property
She is just
naked, basically.
She is just gonna be. It's gonna be a sight, and it's gonna be so delicious and delightful. And me and Ben June were like, we can't miss this.
No,
so
it's going to be such an amazing.
we're booked, baby.
Yay!
We're booked.
Okay, so we'll have hot intern Gigi come back.
Yeah.
But let's get into this episode because it was wow.
Nourishing.
This was nourishing. This was intentional. It got emotional, sensitive, intuitive, philosophical, introspective.
We touched on a lot of things that we might have touched on maybe before, but it was communicated in such a different way. I really think, sisters, you're going to like it's gonna be one of those conversations where it just like sparks things for you.
Yeah.
Where things like fall into place and clicks.
Yeah.
And I love podcasts like that. Like whenever I listen to certain
agree.
podcasts and then I'm just like, oh, right. Got it.
So we had Amber Lyon on. You might know her from the Instagram Modern Mind. Everyone has seen her beautifully aesthetically
Gradient graphics
with poignant quotes that just hit you at the right time. She has just written a book, You Are a Magnet. And if you have been a member of the sisterhood, you gotta buy this book because Mady and I have been talking about Modern Mind forever. So to meet her in person, I didn't even know what she looked like because, well, she shows like a couple photos on her Instagram, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To meet her in person felt like such a full circle moment because I think that when she was really popping off in the beginning, she felt far away from us.
Totally.
And now to know that she was here, she was like, can I come on the pod? We're like, are you fucking kidding me?
We're like,
yes.
yes.
So this book is already, it's stunning if you're watching this on YouTube.
So
I'm showing it to
excited
you
to
right now. So this is a very, very Okay Sister episode. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So without further ado, please welcome Amber Lyon, the author of You Are a Magnet, to Okay Sister podcast.
TikTok will do that for me. I feel like I'll
I'm not
open
on
TikTok. Okay, good.
No, she needs to.
I don't know what it does. I don't know
Sorry,
who it is.
we're rolling, right?
I don't know where
on video and everything. Okay.
I don't know where it is. I don't know how it works. I don't know who's on there.
Don't go.
Don't go on it. It'll suck the life out of you.
Yeah, what happened to TikTok?
It's not even fun anymore, honestly.
Remember
I
it
go
used
on
to be
it.
fun?
No, it used to be
Yeah.
fun and funny. I go on it and I literally just feel so bad about myself. I just feel like I'm not doing anything right. I'm not looking right. I'm not cleaning my apartment right. I'm not. Every single thing I see is someone cleaning their apartment, and I'm like, what is going? Like everything is there like optimal efficiency. Where why can't I just live a life? And it's
the drunk elephant. Like I'm like seeing like
yeah.
everyone's like drunk elephant collections that are like perfectly
Yes.
organized. I'm like,
yeah, it's like
Yeah, but that's like outside of that. Those people's niches that do that, they don't have anything else. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
wait, what is? No, explain.
yeah. What do you mean they don't have anything else like a life to live for?
No. Like the people who are on TikTok in a like organizing niche or this niche, like that's their strength.
Yeah.
Like they don't
Right.
do that level in every
Everything
area
else
of their life.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
That's their
Yeah.
one lane
And
that
so
they're
we
super
see them,
good at.
and we think that they have it all figured out in every lane of their life.
This is what I've had to tell myself. Just because that girl can pack so meticulously for her vacation with the packing cubes and the photos of the things and everything laid out perfectly and beautiful does not mean that her life is figured out in relation to mine.
That's
She just
fabulous.
knows how to use
That's a good
She knows how to
mantra.
use a fucking packing cube. So I
Yes.
ordered one so I could learn how to do it. But, you know. Hi, Amber. Welcome to the
Hi,
podcast.
everyone. Welcome to Okay Sister podcast.
The tangents of my brain
Yeah,
at the moment.
no, it's gonna be a ping pong situation.
Let's go.
Amber,
This is a moment for us.
this is a moment, okay? If first of all, sister, if like you're not following Amber, you probably are. You just maybe don't know.
No, for sure.
No, but
I
you
told
are
people
following
that you're
Amber.
coming on the podcast. They're like, who? And then I
And
show
then I
them your
shove it.
Instagram, and they're like,
oh,
follow her.
of course. It's the graphic girl. It's the
Yeah.
It's
It's the gradient girl.
It's
yeah.
the gradient graphic girl. I mean, everyone who follows you loves your content. Like, I don't even know where to start. Well, first of all, let's show the book.
I would actually
Speaking of gradients,
I mean, you had to, right?
Yeah.
Like, you had to put a gradient on the book.
Yeah.
Oh my
Can
god!
you tell us
Gorgeous.
the origin story of how your account popped off and was created? When did you start it?
And just
How
so
did
everyone
it-
knows, it's Modern Mind.
Modern
Just so
Mind.
everyone
Yeah.
It's a great question. So it started out as like a little hobby on Instagram, just like kind of sharing my thoughts and my words. And it was actually, I remember the day I was modeling in New York at the time. I hated what I was doing. I hated myself in so many ways. And I remember I was like trying to find my way to this casting. I got lost and I got the wrong train and I was crying and it was this whole thing. I like go to the cafe and I'm writing out my thoughts. I'm processing what's happening and I'm basically kind of laying out a practical plan of, okay, if this comes up again, how am I going to handle it? How can I integrate this emotion in a healthier way? And that was sort of my mechanism. I always wrote things out to process. So I started sharing that on Instagram through Modern Mind, faceless account. Before faceless marketing was a thing, I had my like faceless Modern Mind account, which is basically like an online diary.
What year was this?
2018, started
Okay.
2018. And then fast forward a good 4 years of me literally on this account. It's my mom, it's my sister, it's like a few friends that have found it through, like the explore page on Instagram.
Oh, so you hadn't told anyone? You're
I
like
told
Gossip
no
Girl.
one.
You're
Yeah.
like Dumois. You were like Dumois. Wow.
I'm like hiding in the shadows, like writing like my like philosophical ideas down. And then come 2022, I started playing with different designs. My friend had basically suggested, keep playing. Once you have your idea of what your brand is, keep playing with your brand so that you are growing. So I started essentially introducing color, introducing different design tools from my graphic design background, brand background. And the account over a period of 2 weeks grew, I think, 60,000 people.
Holy
and then from there, just over the next year was 100, 150, 200.
Wait, take us back to what year was the 60,000 growth?
2022.
Okay, so you did this for 4 years.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when you said that, I was confused on whether just no one knew who you were for 4 years. But no, you did this for 4 years before it started getting traction.
Yeah.
Everyone needs
Everyone
to pull
needs to-
that
yeah,
and
yeah,
remind
yeah,
that.
because people could hear that and be like, well, that was overnight success. We're just like, no,
Yeah.
it was you putting consistent work for 4 years and then listening to your intuition and tweaking and then this reaping the benefits.
How did it feel when it first started taking off 4 years later?
It was such a beautiful community because, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well, people that are, interested in self-growth and self-development are generally like my favorite types of people.
100%.
So the people that it pulled into that space were so loving and supportive and vibrant. So it felt like I'd found my people, my community. And growing up in New Zealand, I love New Zealand. It's heaven on earth, but people really have a black and white way of seeing the world, and self-development and spirituality are kind of like, okay, like I don't want to talk to you about this. And so that's great. But thank God I found my people, my community, and building that out online. And now that's really translated into in person and like having those different relationships here. But it really felt like this coming home. I know that sounds really maybe strange, but it was as if I had been waiting for that moment for so long, and I had been preparing for that moment for so long that when it happened, it wasn't like this crazy moment. It was like, oh yes, okay, great. Now keep building.
That's really like hopeful. It gives me so much hope that there's like nice people on the internet.
Yeah,
'Cause
totally.
You hear so much about people gaining like insane followers and success, and then it kind of hits the wrong side of the internet or this.
Yeah.
But it seems that the reason it gains so much traction is because all it is positivity. Like that's the only thing you post is just like beautiful messages that people need to hear in that moment. And so to foster this like community of people that only want to reflect back positivity, like, oh, you like have hit the jackpot.
It's so rare. Like, I am the person
Totally.
that's like, if I'm on Instagram, I always like to just kind of see the lay of the land. So I'll always go to the comment section of anything I'm seeing. And I
It's
always just find it
scary.
it is scary.
It's a scary spot, yeah.
And it's wild to me that, you know, people have their name, their profile, and they're willing to come out and be, it's so polarizing. You can't do anything now without someone having an opinion about why you're doing it wrong, or someone saying, oh yeah, that's the only way to do it. And I think I love Modern Mind because it's really saying, well, what do you think? Like, this is my perception of this event, but what's your perception, and how can you look at the situation that you're experiencing in a different way, reframing it in a different way? And so it's refreshing for me, and I could not do it. Like, I am not built, I'm a pretty private person. I'm not built to be the face of a brand or a social media personality. It's just not in my nature. But to have an audience where we're coming together collectively to really better ourselves, and it's not, what are you wearing? You know, does she look like this? Does she not look like this? That's not a part of the narrative on that space, which I think is so refreshing. Just so refreshing.
It's
I was going to say, you're speaking Scouts.
It's such the dream. It's such the dream to be known for your work and not to be known for your personality. I don't know. There's something about that really calls to me. Like, I want, at the end of the day, at the end of my life, I hope people remember how I made them feel, of course, right? But I want to really be known for my work, not necessarily just who I was, if that makes sense. And I don't know, I think maybe that's wrong. I think maybe you should be the other way. But the point being, I think it allows people to see the work for what it is without getting the identity mixed into the message.
Yeah, but now they become inseparable. Like, the art is the artist, and the artist is the art, and we can't see the creator separate to the work. And I think it's so deeply ingrained into cancel culture as well.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you did this bad thing, let me just write off everything you've ever done.
Yeah, and who you are as a human. Yeah.
It's like we're so quick to throw people away.
Yes.
And I feel like it kind of ties into what you said in that sense of legacy. And I think we're all driven by different things. And I think the concept of legacy will resonate with maybe someone listening in a very real way of feeling like, I really want to leave something behind. And I had that same feeling. And I couldn't really figure out what it was. And I was in modeling. I was like, oh, this is definitely not it. Like, this is not the legacy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, finding Modern Mind through like trial and error of trying different careers and different things. I think it's out now. I've found something separate that's an extension of myself, but it's also lives separately to me.
Yeah.
So I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah, the work. I really want to get back. I mean, I am so grateful for and have such admiration and respect for the creator economy and for the job that is being a creator. I think it allows people such access to be who they are and live a life that is so wildly not like our parents thought or could ever imagine. It is just, it's amazing. It's incredible. And I also love the more traditional model sometimes where the artist or the person behind the brand isn't necessarily the face or the content creator, the influencer, the personal, the face of the brand. And I think that while we are trying so hard to put faces to products or faces to messages or faces to businesses, there's also something to be said about just creating a beautiful brand and what that stands for and having it stand on its own two legs without needing a face behind it, because faces can change and people can change and people can change their opinions about that face. And then where does the brand lie? There's something to be said about separation sometimes.
And not tying your worth to your brand's performance. Like when you are your brand, every setback, every failure is a reflection of your worthiness, of your capacity, of your ability, rather than wrong timing, not enough resources, not enough support, not enough planning. Like those are very real things. And I see that a lot. Like a passion of mine is really like the entrepreneurial space. And as Modern Mind has developed into passion and business, and kind of finding that through line between the two worlds, which is, I'm sure you guys are both well versed in that, of where that lies. You know, I am my brand is an extension of my business, my brand is my business, I am my business, like that whole kind of mess in a way, unless it's like tidied up. But I think that separation is so important, because otherwise, how am I going to show up or trial new things or really experiment if that fear of failure is so closely tied to my self-worth and me being a failure? Like, no, that's your business. And I had a moment of failure, which every single business has, and person, but like if we're talking about business, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your process.
Ooh.
Because obviously you write these like piercing, like it hits people like exactly where you need to know this at this exact moment, like when this person needs to hear it. So talk me through, like, is it just like every week you're just brain dumping emotions, things, whatever, but like how do you learn these things? Like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, where does the wisdom come from? You know what I mean? Yeah.
She has a purse. She has a purse. She opens up.
Yeah. Like, where's the wisdom?
Like Magic 8 Ball vibes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm going to give you like a longer answer to that
Good,
question because I think it ties into it, and it would be like a lie for me to say anything else without the reference point. But, you know, growing up, I was in a home, there was 5 siblings. There was like 2 more that came. My father was like struggling with a very intense addiction. And through that whole process, my mom was processing, you know, him going through that addiction. She had her own emotional kind of journey through that. And we were very much left to our own devices, as well as a child trying to process addiction in your household is really complicated because you're trying to figure out, well, how come this person is choosing something that's so painful, and they know it's painful to themselves and to their family, but they're still choosing it anyway. And I think that, I suppose, sparked this curiosity around the human condition. Like, why do we do things that we know are detrimental, or what keeps us in painful patterns, and where does that originate from, and can you change it? Because all I had seen my whole life was that you couldn't. And I remember very vividly like sitting down and having conversation with my father when I was like 11 or something, and being like, can you change? Like, can you please just like stop? Like, could you just like wait outside school like the other ones and just be like, oh, let me take you home, let me drive you back. And I remember he turned to me and he said, this is just the way that I am. I can't help it.
Oh.
And it's one of those things. And I think we've all heard it at some point or another in our lives. And, you know, I went on this quest, I suppose, to figure out, like, is that true? And it prompted me to be an inward processor. So when things were happening around me, I was trying to understand the psychology and the process around them. And then that really turned into my writing practice. Like, okay, I have this processing going in my brain. I need to kind of like alchemize that and put it into paper so that, one, I can think clearly and it's not just like all jammed up in there, but I can just start, I suppose, creating like accounts of like these thoughts and these reflections that were deeply personal because it was my own experience that I was talking about, but also somewhat removed in a zoomed out lens of, well, this could apply to someone else that was experiencing the same situation, the same emotional experience. And then now, I suppose, from all those years of seeing the world in that way, that's just kind of how I go about my life. And so my notes app is like my
I would love to see your notes
Yeah.
app.
it's a lot.
I would love to see
I bet
that.
you people would pay a monthly membership to see your notes
Just to see
app.
access to your notes app. It's fantastic.
No, I think people would like question reality. They'd be like,
Yeah,
oh my God, get me out of here.
No, but
How is your
yeah.
dad today?
Yeah.
Well, he actually passed away 2 years ago. So it was a really heartbreaking situation, but I was extremely grateful that I found this work and I had these tools to process that I ended up, you know, I suppose, sparking a relationship with him when I was older so that we could connect and I could try and understand him as a person and kind of, to your point before, not throw him out in the trash because these actions were actions I didn't agree with, but, well, who are you separate to those actions? And so that helped me process when he did pass, because we had sort of had that coming together again, which I'm so grateful for, because there's so many people I know that have that complicated relationship, sibling, parent, otherwise, and then they never get that opportunity to heal or reconnect. And obviously it is what it is, but there is something so beautiful in that. And I think that applies to everything though, you know, friendships are on weird terms, or just when a relationship goes like array, like, okay, that happened, but is there some energetic charge still there? And that's really easy to monitor when there's emotion still there. That's like signaling to us like, oh yeah, there's still stuff going on that's tying me to that person.
Oh yeah.
So it's always so healing to go back and revisit that relationship and neutralize that emotion in a way, because we don't realize like how much stuff we're carrying around us at all times that's impacting how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, how I'm showing up to relationships, how I'm showing up to work, the whole thing.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of your healing was internal, something that you looked inward to find the answers. You're such a curious person. Scout and I were literally just talking about this, where I feel like a lot of people outsource a lot of their healing or try to find solutions from external things. Whereas, yes, you can find inspirations or guides, or, you know, even your posts can like spark something, but ultimately it needs to come within. And it seems like you kind of mastered that. But as you were healing, because like your first instinct was like, let me go inward, let me see what's going on here. Where I feel like that wouldn't be people's first instinct. I feel like they would try to go outward. Where do you think that comes from? Or is that just naturally?
I think that was my way of processing the world. But then, you know, that self-worth conversation, like I very much went through a period of my time, specifically when I was modeling, where my worth was like, someone had this like carrot that they were dangling in front of me, and I was just like running after it. Like, oh, when I get the carrot, like finally I'll feel good about myself. And so I went through that journey as well. And I remember there was like this one particular agency that I was like, oh my God, if I sign with this agency, like I'm the shit. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's
Yes,
but and I remember the day I like got this call. It was like a whole thing. A psychic had come up to me randomly at a party and was like, you're going to sign with this agency.
Oh my
I'm
God.
Like, okay, like that's so strange. She's like saying the name. And then a few months later, I got the call saying I had signed with the agency. So it was like this two-part, like, oh my God, this is magic. And then also it was this moment where I thought that everything was going to change overnight, and that I would get that text back, or I would, you know, like feel good in my skin all of a sudden. And then it didn't happen. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's another answer out there. And so that's when I really started trying to find that process from within. But I think, you know, sometimes when you get something that you really thought you wanted, and then you realize that you didn't want that at all, it's such a gift.
It's such a gift. Okay, on a smaller scale, kind of like I was thinking about this the other day, where it's like I got something that I really wanted for a long time, like a material object, and then you know, you wear it once and you're kind of excited, and then you like forget about it, and you're just like, oh, and then you like want something else. I sat in that moment and I was like, holy shit, I need to remember this before I go out and fucking buying another thing, because it literally, everything just kind of like it fades. Like, I don't know. It's like, especially with material things, I find that like, and then there are things that I love over time, but it is such a gift to get to that realization and be like, oh, I don't need so much stuff
But also,
outside
like,
me.
what if like the wanting of the thing was fun?
Exactly.
Because we are always going to want things. We're always going to want the next level.
just sit
We're
in the
always going to want a
wanting.
new experience. And when we get it, we're usually good because we
think
got it. But then
about-
we think it's a bad thing. It's like,
Yeah.
what if wanting to buy the purse is the thing? And
Right.
it's like
You think it's kind of a-
dreaming and you're like lusting over it and it's exciting and you're waiting and you're doing the things to get it. And then you get it and sure, you're in the moment. But like, the purse, you know, the purse isn't going to give you happiness in 2 years. You know that.
It's the anticipation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same way as like
Which is
getting ready for prom was always more fun than the prom.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's the anticipation. It's the fun. It's like, I always say the pregame is better than going out. Like I always wanted to have a pregame themed party where we just pregame and never leave. Like I was like, cause that's the best part.
Yeah.
It's the
Pregame to go home.
Yeah. Like just, all right, goodbye guys. So I totally see that where there's this weird but then it's weird because in the wanting and the desire, because so much of like even manifestation basically is all about wanting because you don't have it yet, right? And you kind of can feel that might be in a lack mindset a little bit because you're like, well, I'm manifesting something that I don't currently have. But what if that feeling, I love that. Like, what if you just relish in the feeling of wanting and dreaming and it's not a lack thing? It's just more of an excitement.
Also, you have to get the thing to realize it doesn't fulfill you. Like, you can't do it. Like, you have to get the promotion, you have to get the followers, you have to get the connections, you have to get in the room, you have to do the thing to realize it's not the thing.
Right.
Because you got to do it. So it's like people almost like villainize that part, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I thought if I made money, it was gonna. I've learned it's not. But it's like, oh, but that's just what we all do. We all need to do it.
I always say this. I'm like, when people always say, money doesn't bring you happiness, or I got all the things and it didn't bring me happiness. I'm like, yeah, but you still had to get there
for sure.
Learn the lesson. So like, I guess we're all trying. We all have to do it and get there.
Yes.
So the question is, what is the thing?
So you bring up like such a beautiful conversation. Yeah. And I think, it's not about trying to not want. That's not a message that I would ever want to like perpetuate.
Yeah.
It's really, why do you want that thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think asking that question for fun, for pleasure, amazing. What a beautiful thing to know where your intentionality is coming from. Mm-hmm. But are you seeking that thing to change the way you feel about yourself? And I think that's that shift of dialogue. And I think where manifestation can very quickly turn toxic. And, I've had that same experience. I've had talks with friends that have had the same experience where you're sort of like, you have this like Christmas wish list in front of you. And it's like all you are aware of when you're concentrating in on these are the things that I want, specifically really channeling your energy into that place. It's impossible to not be in lack of those things. Mm-hmm. And then when you're in lack of those things, all you can see around you is the absence of, rather than what that space is abundantly filled by. And so it's not to, I suppose, like punish people for wanting. Like that's just the nature of human beings. Like we're playing leapfrog, right? Like one lily pad to the next. We're like moving forward. Desires are forward motion in life. We need them. Otherwise we'd stay, exactly where we are. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have desires, good for you. Like it's not about taking that from anyone, but really tuning into yourself and asking, what is it that I want from this experience?
That's how I approach manifestation. Like really, there's only a couple like material things on there, but it's mostly feelings and it's mostly states of mind and how I want to feel as I'm moving through certain experiences or things. Like, yeah, like I looked back, I was manifesting the other day and we did this like manifestation candle thing. It was very woo-woo, but it was fantastic. And I just like wrote down like literally, and I looked back, I'm like, oh wait, I didn't like write down that I want, first class seats to and it's like, I was like, oh, let me make a little side note of all the material things, but that wasn't really the focus. And I was really proud of myself that it wasn't.
You literally told me that you wrote down that you like asked for a million different things though.
Oh, I did. No, but I did. It was all feelings though. Oh. The material things, there was like 5 things.
Okay.
5 key things.
5 key things. One of that, and this is a great example. This is going to be very, whatever, I'll just say it. So I got, so I put on the thing AirPod Max Pro, like the ones.
Love them.
They have, okay.
I don't have them, but I've seen my boyfriend's, okay? But so I love them. Yeah.
So like I have been manifesting this like free ones for so long. I was like, yes, I could afford them and I could buy them, but it's like, I don't know. I was like, I'll get them for free somehow. Didn't really happen. And I was like, I don't know. I was at a place and I wanted noise canceling. I was like, I can hear everything with the AirPods. I was like, I would love just to like be in a little cocoon and just feel like I'm just like in my own world and like focus and all these things. So I bought them and I was like, you know what? I fucking bought them. Okay. And I was so excited. This morning I put them on. Instant headache. Just.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
Migraine. I never get headaches. And it pushes you like you're wearing a headband.
Oh, then I definitely can't get them.
And I was like,
I get a headache from wearing a fucking hat.
And this is exactly the point. You know, we desire. I was so excited. I want to be my little cocoon. I want to look chic and da-da-da.
So you're returning them?
I don't know. I'm going to try to power through for a couple more. And then maybe my brain would adapt. But that's the thing is like, I don't know. I just more so, it's not about material things for me because it's that lesson that happens over and over again for me when it comes to material things is when I get it, I'm like, oh wait, the experience was not as fulfilling as I thought.
It's like a beautiful thing to have the things that you want.
Yeah, of
like
course.
Amazing. But also it's like we glorify it so much. And I think
Glorify.
that's the point. And, you know, just to like touch on that, the way that I like play with it and the word magnetism in lieu of manifestation. Magnetism is essentially using the tools of manifestation to be like clear on what it is that you want. But I feel like manifestation practices, you know, they're beautiful and I love the intentionality behind like essentially fine tuning your vision and your focus onto what you want and really pulling that into your space. But magnetism is really, how do I want to feel when I have this thing? And then there's an openness to it. It's less specific. It's less like, it's the AirPod Maxes. It's like, I want this experience of like when I'm out and about and I feel kind of in my space and it's like noise canceling, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And then receptive to the ways in which that comes through.
Yes.
And sometimes the ways that comes through, and I see this a lot, it always makes me laugh because I've done the same thing on like old manifestation lists, is really, we think that's like, okay, I'm outsourcing everything I want to the universe. But we're not taking responsibility for the fact that we are an extension of the universe. And so, wait, is that something I could go do for myself? You know what I mean? We put things on the list. I used to put like a pair of white sneakers. I'm like, girl, like go out and buy the white sneakers you want for yourself. Like, and you know, and like allow that magic to come in ways that, hey, I really want this thing. I don't know how it's going to come together. I don't know how to get this opportunity. I don't know how to get this, whatever it is you're working on, in front of the right people. Use that focus and that attention for those things, because that's where we need that like additional resource.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a good point.
Like separating church and state a little bit.
That just like really clicked in my head. Like, stop using manifestation for things that you can go and fucking buy yourself.
Yeah.
And do for yourself.
And do for
Or
yourself.
do for yourself.
Or do, like, you know, and use manifestation for the thing of like, I don't know how I'm going to get to this person, or I don't know how this is all going to come together, but I'm putting it out there and I'm hoping
trusting,
that something comes together, that I get introduced to this person, or I meet this person, or I collaborate with them in some way. I feel like using manifestation for something like that is so much more energetic than just being like, I want a house, I want this
for sure.
cup of whatever, I want this, because yeah, you could just go fucking buy it eventually.
Yeah.
Like I can just imagine like the universe, like whatever.
They're like, walk
my
to the
mind,
store.
Yeah, being like, girl, like literally, I put the money in your bank account.
Like, go
like,
do
what
it.
are you doing? Like, I want like this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, but I love that the like opportunity. Like for instance, I used to write on my manifestation like, I want peace of mind. But
You're like waiting for someone to give you peace of mind.
exactly.
They're like,
But
da-da-da-da.
exactly. But that's like something I can control, right?
Yeah.
What I kind of ask for though in that realm is like, give me books around this. Give me resources. Like
Show me the way.
Show me the way.
Give me a sign.
Give me a sign or some sort of like guidance along it. Because yes, ultimately peace of mind is something I'm gonna need to fucking live. Like I can't just like wake up and have peace of mind, you know? So it's just it's the subtleties, and I like that because I think we throw around manifestation, we throw around these terms, and we're just like, I want the AirPod Max, where and I like to tune into more of that feeling and the intention. I think also it allows you to then not be so much in the lack. You start to like see how much blessings are around you. I don't know. Whenever I say like I want, instead of wanting the AirPod Maxes, what do I want? I want that feeling. Well, I can actually access that feeling now, right?
Yeah.
Like I can make that feeling of the inward and the introspective and whatever. Like I can create that for myself right now with all the resources I have. So I think if you just layer back, like what are you actually looking for in the house and the this and the dream job, and how can you start today to make it a reality? Because it's a feeling.
That's it. That's
Right?
exactly it.
Yeah.
You just described this like concept of magnetism better than I could have possibly
Oh, wow.
even described to you.
I'll give you the
So-
clip.
Yeah,
Cut the clip.
yeah.
We'll send it.
Because you laid it out in that way, it really is. It's coming back to that place of feeling. And it's not, again, it's not to say that you can't have those things. Like, if you want that house with that many rooms, and go for it. Amazing. Create that. Like, you deserve it.
Yeah.
If you want that experience for your life, like, we're human, we're thoughts create reality, and we can actually go out and create these things for ourselves. Amazing. But do you want to feel in lack, like you're mentioning, the whole way
time there?
That is I
That's
think where the manifestation stuff got too much. Like it prompted that feeling for me for a while too, because I was just constantly reminded that I didn't have the thing, and then I didn't get the thing because I obviously was not in the right frequency.
It's like this. It feels like this. It's like holding on to it.
Dear life.
And life is like, just let go of what you're holding on to so I can give it to you. But we're just like gripping it, and we don't realize that we're blocking what it is that we want when we're in the process of gripping something so tightly.
Yeah.
The surrender is so hard.
So hard.
The surrender is mostly, I think
you
there's
think
two.
you think it's like you think you're being complacent when you surrender.
But
People are
it's
like,
also
"Sit
difficult to actually surrender. Isn't something that you can just go, okay, I'm going to surrender now. It's
Oh,
like
no,
it's
so
like getting
hard.
peace of joy when you are at your most anxious. It is so hard to finally get to the point where you surrender. And I find that surrender, while it is a muscle, I do think there's a couple emotional steps one must go through before you're finally ready to surrender around something. And I remember being like, I know I just have to surrender around this. I know, but I just fucking can't until you get so sick of yourself that something happens and you kind of just like the walls break, right? But you can't rush that process sometimes. You can't tear the wall down with, you don't have a hammer. You have to get to the point where you have the hammer to tear the wall down to then surrender. And I find that to be the hardest part in the human experience and the spiritual experience is surrendering and having faith when everything's going wrong. Those two states of being are so hard to embody in the moment.
Yeah. And you bring up that you really have to be broken open into it. And there's so many stories, even you hear it a lot in the entrepreneurial world, where they hit this rock bottom feeling and they run out of resources, or everything failed and they had this opportunity that everything was going to change and then it didn't work. And there's sort of that moment that you're talking about where you're broken open, and that surrender is when I'm doing everything in my control, but there are things out of my control that are overwhelming, that aren't working, that I need help with. And it sort of reminds me of that sense of like reallocating the list when we're writing things out. I don't know how this is going to come together, but I need some help here. And I'm opening myself up to help, because I think we don't realize how much, yes, you are the captain of your life, of your fate, of your soul, but there are other resources available to you at every moment to call upon. And we shut ourselves down and we isolate ourselves from this like ecosystem around us, energetic ecosystem. And that moment where we're breaking open is really letting that in. And that's when we feel that sense of relief, because we're connected to life again in that way. And again, it's difficult. It's painful. Like those moments you really are, you're shedding almost part of yourself. It's like a grief in a way, but we need those. And I think, again, manifestation and even just like the talk around mental health or self-development or, low vibration, like, oh my God, like if you're in low vibration, you're not going to like, no, like
that's
all
a
of
human experience. Like you need low vibration.
Exactly. You need low vibration to understand high vibration and to have that duality and that contrast and that ability to tap into both. And so I think just as human beings, the way we work is good and bad. We really see things in that way without seeing that moment where you were broken open was when you actually unlocked this next level in yourself and this resourcefulness or, tapping into the sense of surrender and what that feels like. And when you feel held by life, you wouldn't have known what that felt like if you hadn't had gone through that pain. And I think, it's cheesy in a way, like pain serves purpose, but it's
so true.
It's so closely tied to what you want. And I think the idea that you are never going to have challenge, delay, setback, disappointment is just such a illusion. Like it's not possible.
No, it's delusion.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way to not encounter it. But I think it's about how we reframe those times when they come up.
Yeah.
And talking about them, sharing about them, listening to other people that have been through them to validate that experience rather than feeling isolated in it. But it's really about allowing yourself to be a human being, feeling what you're feeling, being conscious of what it is that you want for yourself. I think that intentionality of manifestation is like such a beautiful gift that's come in this wave of like social media and books and all these thought leaders in that space. But I also think, you know, why is it that you want for yourself? And a question that I always return to is like, what's really missing in this moment? And I'm sitting here with you guys and I feel like so connected to you both and it's such a beautiful conversation. Like, what is really missing from right here in this moment? Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know?
I was like, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah.
It's so weird because you think your mind's going to be like, well, I could be, you know, and you.
In this moment, I could think of something missing in the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like after this, I can think of things that are missing, right?
But in this moment, yeah,
we're here, we're on a pod, there's nothing missing because we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you maintain the trust in the universe or in the energy of the world? Like, how, when you have these setbacks, are you like so knowing that things are going to get better? Is it just history that you just have always had the pattern, or like, how can you trust?
Definitely haven't always had the pattern. There's been a lot. It's actually something I've recently broken through of like the first setback or delay, accepting failure and being like, oh, well, that was obviously never going to work, instead of like continuing forward. But, you know, when something's really important to you, there comes a time where you break through those walls of your mind. And essentially it is a wall of the mind that we put up in front of us that says like, oh, you can't go past this point. I decided so. It's like, who decided so? Like, and why have I placed such importance on this delay or setback? Like, what belief is that validating for me? And is that still true for me today as it was, you know, when that belief first was born inside of me? And to sort of like come back to that question, when I was first, writing the book has been on my goals, my dreams for as long as I can remember. Like that process of writing and alchemizing thought to paper. And so I decided, my boyfriend and I were traveling at the time, and I turned to him and I was like, I'm going to write a book. And he's like, oh, good for you, babe. He's literally the best person in the world, like so supportive. He's like, if you want to do it, like you can do it. I'm like, okay, great. Like, okay, now I'm going to go do it. I like claimed it. Now I have to like actually like make progress on it. And so I start writing, and then 3 weeks later, and this is such a tribute to that like intentionality, getting really clear on what you want. I had an editor reach out from Penguin at the time, just randomly through my Shopify store. And, you know, like normally like through website requests, it's like, let me SEO optimize your site. And like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh,
Spam.
delete. Yeah. So I'm reading it and I like stop in the middle of the street. And my boyfriend's like, what's going on? Like, is everything okay? And I'm like, like having like a panic attack almost. I was so excited. I like Google her. She like was on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay. I ended up going back and forth with this editor for 8 months on the concept, the proposal, tweaking. Wow. She pitches me once, they turned it down. She comes back to me, she's like, oh, let's keep working on it. We go for another 4 months. They reject it again. Wow. And at that point, I remember sitting on the couch and being like, is this ever going to work? They clearly don't like the concept. And taking a day or so to really sit with it, to sit with the disappointment, to sit with the delay, to see what that felt like in my body. Like, okay, I'm feeling, you know, emotional through this. I've been trying really hard and didn't come through. But then making that decision of, well, what does this mean to me? Why do I want this contract with them? Like, what does that like whole outcome look like? I'm like, okay, I want to be a writer. Okay, what does a writer do? A writer writes a book. Like, I will get up tomorrow morning and I will continue writing my book, like regardless of this contract. And then just so happened that a month later, I had a different editor reach out from a different publishing house. And we started talking. Penguin ended up coming back in. It was like a whole thing. But I had my book contract with Hachette, who I like love and adore. The editor came in, was phenomenal. Like, couldn't have been more of a blessing. Wow. But if I hadn't have decided
Yeah.
I am a writer. I'm going to show up. What do I want to do? I want to write my book. Okay, tomorrow morning, what does a writer do? They get up and they write their book. That's what they do. They get their coffee.
Yeah.
Imagine if I had just been
Get
decided in that moment, oh, that was enough. And I think we turn to the world to validate the things that we want for ourselves, or to give us permission to do it for ourselves. And I think it's about realizing that no one is going to give you permission.
Yep.
Like, you have to step up and claim it for yourself. You have to push on the door. You have to hear the no's and be like, okay, great, next. But not making such a key part of that, and coming back to that point of surrender and like being broken open, is not having your worth tied to someone else's no.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be inspired by something bigger than that, bigger than someone else's opinion of what you're doing. And so again, all these like tools and resources really come back to like, how can you validate what you want for yourself from within, what it is that you're seeking? How can you show up in that today? And then you pull in those experiences naturally, effortlessly, because you are that person.
Yeah.
You're not like trying to like leap into something that you're not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
we think we want all these things for ourselves, and the reality is, if we were given all of them, we'd be so overwhelmed and burnt out. Our nervous system would be shot.
Yeah.
It's like, you are gradually getting there every day. But it's difficult, like in social media, like you see these stories. It's like, I woke up and I had like 1 billion Instagram followers.
Yeah.
My
Totally.
business is making X amount per month. It's like, well, the reality is, it's just simply not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the giving the validation to yourself. I think one, that's just like really, really hard to do, especially if you've talked negatively to yourself your entire life. Rewriting that inner dialogue is so difficult. And I think of it also like when people are looking for romantic relationships, I think a lot of what they're looking for is validation, right? I know I was for sure, like before I met, even when I met my fiance, like, of course I was, and look, it's a human nature thing. Like, but I think a lot of even processing breakups and things like that is because this person rejected you, and when people are still hung up on breakups, it's because you're still holding out hope that they will give that validation to you.
It's not even for the person.
It's not, you don't even want to get back together with this person. You just want them.
Even if you think you do, it's usually just because you want them to validate
you. And so when you can like really let that sink in and fully somehow, I don't even know really like what that process is for each individual person, but really like give that to yourself. And just like even think about this, like any sisters listening who are like going through a breakup or like really struggling with dating or something, I think of it because it really works in this framework. It's like, just think of like what you want them to say, and then just literally say it to yourself.
There you go,
like just pretend like this, like imagine them saying it, and then be like, wait, now like turn it around and like you're just saying it to yourself. And I don't know. When I did that, it was such a shift in being like, and I started doing it for, people who didn't like my company, or like investors who rejected us, or things like this. If you just start to understand what you're seeking from them and then just give that to yourself, it's so much harder, obviously, than just saying it, but like really sitting with it and meditating on like what that would feel to actually feel that validation.
I love that so much.
You know?
That exercise of turning it around.
Yeah.
And it comes back to self-dialogue, self-talk so
It's all,
often.
it's everything. Literally, it's everything.
There's a stat. You have between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts every single day.
It's insane.
Of those, I've definitely been on the 60,000 mark of that.
100%.
But of those, 80% are negatively biased, and 95% are the same as the day before. So you're thinking the same way over and over and over again. And all the thoughts that you're thinking tend to be more negatively biased. So there's no wonder that we're not feeling like we're trusting life or we're able to surrender, because we have this like narrative in the mind that's telling us otherwise. And it's telling us all the reasons why we can't do it, all the reasons why we're not supported, all the reasons why it's going to fail. And it's a matter of really bringing your awareness to, well, who's listening to this right now in the mind, you know, there are plenty of resources out there as far as meditation, mindfulness, simply going for a walk in nature, not with your phone, but like looking around you, playing the role of an observer, because that gets you into this practice of, okay, I'm watching, I'm noticing. And I love this like art of noticing your life, because when we do that externally, it becomes a habit to do it internally. And we start to bring awareness to, well, what's the climate of my mind, and what are the ways in which I'm talking to myself? And coming from someone that my self-talk used to be vicious.
Oh, same.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, and I think it's something a lot of us can relate to.
A lot of women. Too.
Yeah. And I think it was really specifically going through the modeling world and self-image and everything that's tied to that. I want to like bag on modeling too much, but for me, it was a very painful experience. And now, obviously, I have thoughts that come up to my mind that are negative, but I also have this other voice that comes in to counterbalance those. And that's been over, you know, time practice of really creating enough space in my mind, like space between thoughts. I used to think that if someone had space between thoughts that they were stupid. Like that's actually what I used to think. Yeah. And now I realize I'm like, oh wait, no, you just have like peace of mind because you're not filling that space with just mindless noise. Yeah. And we think it's original and we think that it's important and that our thoughts are really useful. Your thoughts are really helpful when you're planning, when you're, you know, bouncing ideas around, when you're trying to communicate, share a message. But the reality is, like, we don't need our thoughts as much as we think we do. And creating that space between yourself, like higher self, connectivity to the whole spiritual realm, and the noise of your mind, which is a reflection of your past experiences, the patterns that you've experienced, the dialogue that you've been telling yourself for years, that inner narrative. That is your key to change. And if we're not, that's the start point for everyone, is creating space in your mind so that you have room to choose differently. Because if there's no space, there's no room to choose differently. And then you're blocking yourself from being able to counterbalance those negative thoughts with, well, how do I know this to be true? Do I have evidence to support this to be true? What evidence do I have for the contrary? Or your beautiful exercise of, well, how can I turn that inward and how can I self-validate? How can I say that to myself? That self-talk it's
everything.
It really is everything. Like, start there.
Yeah. And also,
that's how you feel what you want to feel.
Yeah. That's how you become the identity that you want to become.
Yeah.
I mean, overthinking is like, it does nothing. Like, it's like literally useless at a certain point. Like, obviously, yes, you can think about it. Overthinking, if you can catch yourself, it's really important to be like, okay, we've hit the plateau. Like, nothing is fucking getting thought of anymore. Like, and it's really, really, if you can continuously minimize the amount of time it takes from the overthinking, being able to catch it and just surrendering or accepting and being like, we're letting that go. Like, today, right now, letting go. I can tell you about an example. The other day, it was so stupid too. Like, I had wanted to do something for my friend and I kind of didn't plan it in time, so I didn't get it. And she doesn't know that I was going to do this, but I was like, oh, but it would have been like so great if I did this. And I literally, for days, who cares? Also, like, it didn't happen. So what the fuck is the point of thinking about this? Like, she doesn't know it. I ruminated. I was like, oh God, imagine if I did this. And I stopped and I was like, Mads, you're done. Like, drop it. It's gone. And it's funny because I used to be so good at that in high school. I don't know what it was. I remember my brain being so good at catching myself quickly and just releasing it. Like, I would you know, catch up, like, oh, I said this one thing, like, oh, I was a little embarrassed, oh, cringy, or like this person thought I was weird. I would be like, no, we're dropping it. Because one, they probably don't even remember what the fuck you're thinking about. So why are you wasting space? And I was so good at dropping it. And I lost that along the way. So I've been trying now to retrain my brain to that, because that's so powerful. When you could just talk to yourself and be like, no, you're dropping it. Done. Move on.
I should find this one exercise I used to do when I did outpatient. I did CBT outpatient twice. And a huge part of the program, I forget, they called it some acronym, is we literally had to fill out these sheets when we thought a thought that was either negative or ruminating or whatever. We would listed out, 1 page per thought, literally, and you'd have to put in like the evidence for it being true, the evidence for it not being true, the level of the charge it had in your body, and then we would present it to group therapy.
Oh, wow.
And it would almost be like, it was like a law class almost. And I would present the evidence of why it was true, and there wasn't usually much,
right?
And why it wasn't true. And so at the end, the therapist would be like, okay, like, can we conclude that with absolute certainty, like a law class, that this is true? And they put such an emphasis on this, exercise that was one thought. We had to do a whole thing. And when we would share in group, if there was something that just kept coming up or something negative or a pattern, the therapist would say, you need to do, and whatever the acronym was, a worksheet on that one thought and bring it back tomorrow. And then we would go through the whole thing. And it was such a good exercise because, we there's so much information out there about how to change your thoughts, etc. But we're doing it on the fly, right? Like, we're in the car and we're like, oh, stop, move. Oh, I'm going to say this differently. But it was such a gift for me to actually workshop and stop what I was doing and put it through a system. And then like a judge of court, like, then decide at the end of it. And it was so helpful. I remember doing that and thinking, wow, everyone needs to do this in school. They need to teach this in school.
Oh, they don't teach us anything.
It's so frustrating.
So frustrating.
It's so frustrating. And like, they should teach this in workplaces. They should teach this in
for
schools.
sure.
This is like the fundamental like core of being a human being, is that we've become over-identified with our thoughts.
Yes.
And we take them as fact. And we don't realize that they're completely bias of our environment around us. But then we also don't realize that how much power that they hold.
Yeah.
Because if we're
It's
taking
like a
those
paradox.
It is a paradox.
Because people are like, can you talk about that? Because people are like, thoughts aren't real, but thoughts will change your life.
Right,
And I'm
yeah,
like, but if they're not real, am I lying to myself by saying I'm great and then I'll become great? Like, it's such a, but I understand it now. The nuance is some of the best things in the world are paradoxes. Like, they don't make rational sense. Like, it's both, right? And thoughts are one of those things.
I love that you bring that up because, it's like the duality, and it kind of ties into that like pain and pleasure discussion. It's like, well, we need pain to highlight pleasure, black and white. We need like the darkness to contrast like what the light looks like to the eye. And so even just the environment, we need like empty space and we need matter to create this environment. So it's like these things that work in unison together.
I think thoughts are like it's like we need quality over quantity. I think that's kind of what you're saying, where
That's
it's
a good
like
way to look at it.
the overthinking, the too much thinking, that in the bias thinking, all that is the quantity. We need, and then the quality of it is where your reality, your thoughts are your reality. That's like where the quality of the thoughts matter.
Completely. And I think where I would like draw that line of like when they really cross that threshold of power, I'm having a passing thought. I'm like, I often be driving sometimes and I'm like, I have this irrational fear of like crashing and dying. Like happen. I don't know. Maybe other people have that, right?
Literally all the time.
I'm not creating that experience for myself in that moment of that thought. But where thoughts start to really accumulate that power is when we derive meaning from them. And when
beliefs.
Exactly. And so when we have that, when we have the meaning of the thoughts, we come up with the narrative. So that's sort of kind of tying into what you're saying, like that quantity. It's like we're putting all these thoughts together from an experience of we had an interaction with someone and it was kind of awkward. And then our thoughts is coming up with a narrative around that. The narrative itself is not all that powerful. It's not like creating more of that for ourselves. But the meaning we make from those thoughts is impacting the way that we see ourselves, the way that we carry ourselves into future experiences. So
the way we act.
And not just the meaning, the energetic frequency. Because if you're driving and you think, oh my God, what if I crash and die? Cortisol levels up, you're afraid of life, you're scared, your anxiety and your fear, and that's the way that is now stuck in your body. Like, that is now the state that you exist in that moment. And it's not real and it's not true. So the more you think thoughts like that, the more afraid you are, the more anxiety you have.
So the link in that and the potency is that meaning aside, emotion.
Yeah.
When thoughts have emotion, they
Yes.
have charge. And then
Yes.
it's exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about, frequency. When we are driving, when we're having that stress response, the body is triggered by fear.
Yeah.
It's triggered by a fearful emotion in the body, in the mind. Thoughts feeding, feeling, feelings feeding thoughts. It's like this kind of process that's constantly going around. But exactly right. It's like how much emotion do those thoughts have? And it can work on the other side. The flip side of that is when I'm thinking about my life and I'm thinking about the feelings that I want to create from this experience that I've written down, that I want for myself. How can I cultivate that from within now?
Mm-hmm.
What feelings am I bringing into that space? What thoughts am I having? Okay, how can I do that? Those thoughts have a positive charge. They have this charge that's validating that experience for you. And so it's really the emotion and the meaning that we're applying to the thoughts that matter, rather than, okay, you thought a negative thought about yourself and then it passed. You're not in low vibration per se, from that experience.
Right.
Like don't be afraid of that, or don't be afraid of your fearful thoughts, but just knowing that it doesn't serve you to continuously telling yourself this disempowering story.
Yeah. When it comes to low frequency and low vibration, this is what helped me out a lot, because I got into a trap for a little bit where I was like, I'm low vibe, not going to get what I want. The universe isn't going to attract it. This is what I've come to realize. It is your dominant vibe. It is the dominant language of your thoughts. If your thoughts are mostly, fuck yeah, let's go, I got this, I'm so excited, I'm so lucky, holy shit, look what I'm doing, oh my God, I can't wait for that, oh my God, the dreams.
Default.
That's my default right now. That doesn't mean that 40% of the time I do go into, or 25 to 40%, whatever, I'd probably say that, I do go into like, ooh, self-doubt, ooh, fear, ooh, am I okay? Is it going to happen? But it's because when someone is dominantly a victim, that is how the world is going to respond to them. If someone is dominantly insecure, that is how the world is going to respond to them. So it's not about never slipping into that. It's just, what's your default? Like, what's your main default? And that's what the world's going to respond to. You don't have to be
100%.
it all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Because you can't be. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, whoo, thank God.
And
Hello.
Also, it takes so much pressure off those moments when
Totally.
you feel like shit. Because I get spiral into that, where if I feel whatever, like negative emotion or charge, I'm like, oh no, like we gotta go back. We gotta go back.
like
again.
scrambling
It's
to
gonna-
find
It's
it.
like no. I really love that, where it's like no, this is not my default, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I can just kind of move through it. When I give it so much power, we were talking about that gripping state, when I give it so much power to shift or change or to bypass, and try to like fix it quicker than it should be fixed, that's when it lingers for longer. And that's when it kind of switches over to the default.
Yeah.
And to kind of like tie that back into that manifestation conversation, in that moment, you're in resistance to the thought.
Yeah.
When we're so hyper focused on what it is I want, I don't have it, I'm trying to create that, we're also in resistance to what we want. So it's about, I suppose, neutralizing those intense emotions around what we have or what we don't have in that moment, and accepting things as they are in this moment before we move forward to create. Exactly as you said, if you're not accepting that, okay, I feel that way, I'm just acknowledging that thought, I accept that thought. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to wrestle it to the ground, but I'm going to just integrate it as this is something that came up for me and now choose differently, rather than kind of try. It reminds me of pulling a piece of string. It's like never ending.
Yeah.
You will like continuously go down the rabbit hole of that thought.
Totally.
So it's about like dropping the string.
Dropping the motherfucking string.
Yeah.
Just drop it.
Yeah,
Or
please
cut
stop
it.
it.
Yeah. Before we ask our last question that we ask every woman that comes on OK Sister, I want to know a very quick answer to the question that you asked yourself when your dad said that. Do you think that he could have changed? Do you think that people can change? Yeah.
And I think it goes into I'm not going to even like go there because it's like a longer conversation topic, but it's something more specific around drug addiction is so closely tied to mental illness. And I think, having some compassion for that stage, and if someone has the right support, there are tools that can help them get out of that place if they have that right environment and the resources around them. But unfortunately, that's just not the reality for so many people.
Yeah. It makes me emotional. It's a devastating place to think that. And I think that all healing comes from the opposite of that statement. And that statement is the blocking thing for everyone. So if everyone can just not believe that, that's like step one for a lot of people who are in that state. So I hope they heard that for sure.
It does change.
Yeah.
It does get better.
Yeah. Or it can change. This is not just who you are. This is not just who you are. It's not just the way it is. There's ways to move through. So, okay. Sorry. My husband's like 13 years sober. I've done a lot of I've had a mental illness for a long time. And when your dad said that, I just like, because, I felt that way before, and it's like so scary.
And it's so isolating in that process.
And to think of you as an 11-year-old. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm a new mom, and so now when people come on the podcast,
talk about parents.
No, I should hug you. But now when people come on the podcast and I read things about kids in relation to their parents, it's like I don't look at the parent anymore, or like I look at the parent. I don't look at you. And I'm just like, and then you are my daughter, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope I never do that. I just hope I never make my daughter feel that way.
You would never.
It's different. It's different now. I just view it through a different lens, and then I just feel so much for the 11-year-old you because I'm relating. Okay, fuck it. Okay, ask your last question. Sorry,
You're going down the rabbit hole.
It just hits.
Drop the string.
All of it hits. Okay.
Yeah, no.
And I'm sorry for your loss.
No,
I really
thank
am.
you, love. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful way to see the world. I'm like, oh, fellow empath.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, she is.
Like I'll literally drive in the car. Like I know we're wrapping up, but we watched this Natural Geographic thing, and like there was like a big whale with like a baby whale, and she had like traveled 9 months with it, and then these killer sharks came in and like killed the baby whale, and I was in hysterics. My boyfriend's looking at me. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "It was our baby."
Yeah, being an empath is a special type of assignment on Earth. Okay, we ask every woman who comes on this podcast this: if you could brag about one thing and you weren't allowed to be humble, what would you brag about?
That's such a good question. Oh my God, the fact that I have such pause like shows a lot, I suppose. But I'm so proud of the book. Yeah, I really am, guys. It was in my heart for so long, and to have the experience of bringing it to life and the intentionality, behind like, okay, why do I want this? Like, I really just to bring joy to myself and to bring joy to other people. Like the rest is irrelevant at the end of the day, and it's already delivered so much joy. So in my mind, it's already such a success. So that's my brag. That's my brag.
Love it.
Will you tell everyone where they can buy the book? You are a magnet. Pre-order all the things.
Pre-orders anywhere where you can buy books. Amazon US. It's available in the UK through my bio, through my website. But just Googling it will come up with wherever is most local. So.
Beautiful. Amazing. And you're at Modern Mind _
Yeah,
yes.
I like use it underscores because like I really didn't anticipate the page like blowing up. Like anyone that did like heaps of underscores in their name was like, oh whatever, like this is probably not going anywhere.
And here it is in book form now.
It went
6
somewhere.
years later. Thank you so much for coming on, sisters. You can follow us at OK Sister Pod, and we love you.
We love you. Oh my God, that was fantastic.
So good.
Oh, wow, I feel like
I feel
nourished.